Hey Tom, welcome to the show.
Hey man.
Let's start off with this particular photo. I know the back of your head like the back of my hand. I don't think it's a really good photo, but it means a lot to me, and I'm sure it's got some significance to you too, because this is how I started. Walking out to shows with my corner, carrying the bucket, wearing the team shirt, just lurking backstage, blending into the team to get that ringside access, which is pretty hard to get these days. But back then, the only way to get close enough to ringside was through your team, and because you were training martial arts and you were fighting back then, it was easy for you to be one of them. What do you remember from those early moments using that small Lumix camera?
Yeah, well, that one, I think I was down as the corner, so I was allowed to be there, but I wasn't really doing much corner stuff. And that was at Hex, getting that bucket shot. That, yeah, that's how it started with me. I actually had an injury and I couldn't train or obviously compete. So I thought one way I could be part of the team is by recording the moments just for fun, really. Yeah, no, I can't remember exactly what fight that was, but I remember it was Hex.
That's a very interesting start, because that's how I got started too. Early on in my fighting career, our gym was only offering training sessions like every second day of the week. And so I had to find other training on those other odd days. And it was at those other gyms where I got injured myself. Someone was doing a weird back takedown and I rolled my ankle pretty badly. I couldn't walk for at least a few weeks. So I decided to pick up a camera from home, played around, and I was still in a learning process of martial arts. So I still went to the gym, still sat on the mats and just learnt on the side and just took photos. And that's how I learnt my craft. It was a nice period to learn while also being in a gym environment. And I'm sure you can relate to that too.
Yeah, of course. You're obviously very passionate about your martial arts as well. It helps. I kind of got to blend those two together because I obviously enjoy a creative side as well.
What do you remember from this fight?
Oh my God. Yeah, I'm not very photogenic. I remember that was on Peter Hatton's show. Hey, Ross is wearing a Rebellion short. And I remember I bought those black shorts thinking that I was going to look like Mike Tyson. Well, I don't remember, to be honest.
I didn't know you back then, but I recognize the last name because your cousin, Jake Gathercole, and he actually fought your opponent, Ross, a few shows back on the Lillardale show.
That was actually really special for us. You know, Jake, I love Jake. He's awesome. And I was going to support him at that Lillardale show when he fought Ross. And actually, I remember me and my sister were cheering for Jake, probably too enthusiastically. And his family were next to us. And so then it was a bit awkward because we're cheering when Jake did something good, and then they're cheering when Ross did something good. And this really, it was pretty terrible, but thankfully, it didn't turn out a horrible situation. But Ross's daughter, who was quite young then, she fainted, and my sister's a nurse and actually helped Ross's daughter while she was coming to and everything like that. And so it was this weird thing where we were just cheering against Ross, and then my sister was helping his daughter. Wow. I don't think he ever knew that, but yeah, this was special too because my dad and my Uncle John, who's Jake's dad, were both in the crowd watching their boys together, the Gathercoles.
That's awesome.
It, so it was special for us.
If you look closely too, I think he beat you to the punch because he either smacked the mouth guard out of your mouth or you were doing the old spitting the mouth guard out for some extra time, because you can see your mouth guard on the floor.
As you can probably see, because I had a range of different weight divisions that I fought in, from 74 to probably, I think this was at 83. Never that heavy. And this one was a heavier one where I was probably gassing and I don't remember doing it on purpose, but yeah, I spat my mouth out a couple of times that particular fight.
Was this when you started your creative journey too, or was this when you were still a full-time fighter?
Well, I was never really a full-time professional fighter or anything like that. I think this was while I was still working. So I remember, driving to like Laverton for like 7 a.m. and then finishing at like 4 or 5, then quickly driving back to Chelsea and training after, a 12-hour day, and then driving back home to Dandenong and doing it. Doing those type of days were really long.
Yep.
So that was before I had my injury. And then I actually had an injury at work, which made me rethink what I was doing. And so while I was injured, I started filming my teammates, and then from there, enjoyed that, and then entered a film degree from there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you would have built a lot of contacts during your fighting time too.
Yeah, of course. That's friends with all the promoters and things. Not that I fought on every show, but like Warriors Way and Rebellion and things like that.
What's Rebellion?
Made contacts. Yeah. Just the best Muay Thai show in Australia.
Which brings me to my next photo. I've already known you as a videographer at this stage, and I was surprised to see you jump back into the ring and wear the monk on and do the whole thing. What was it like coming back to fighting after making a name for yourself as a videographer?
Well, yeah, I was working for Paris for the last year or so before this fight. And they were all filming the show and everything, so I knew that they were watching, and they'd probably give me crap if I lost afterwards, which ended up happening. The boys love to mention how they were there for this, how I lost this fight. Yeah, it was a big break. I think I had a year and a half off, or a year or something like that, before I took this fight. But I loved it. It was great. Fight on Rebellion. I always wanted to. This was actually Road to Rebellion though.
Yeah, so which pretty much is a rebellion anyway.
Well, this one in particular was stacked. Not anything to do with me, but but there's like Josh Tonnell, Roy Wills, obviously Toby Smith. So, and Stefan actually continued on to and has become a really, really awesome fighter out of the pit.
You could say that you were sort of the gatekeeper.
No, he destroyed me in the clinch. Actually, Sai has a funny story to do with the clinch, where he said he messaged me probably a couple of weeks out from the fight. Said, "I hope you're working on your clinch." And I told him that I'd been wrestling, and he laughed, and I got destroyed in the clinch. Wrestling and the clinch are a different thing, apparently.
That's good to know if I ever come back to fighting. What was your mindset like preparing for this fight? Were you still thinking of working on the night, or was the sole focus just getting through this first fight?
I remember telling Sai, because I had done a couple of highlights before this show, so I was already doing highlights for Sai.
Yeah. I
said to him, if I don't get hurt too bad, I'll film the rest of the show. I didn't film any of the fights before this.
Yeah.
My fight, because I was too nervous. But afterwards, there's no more nerves, and so yeah, I filmed the rest of the show, and actually, it turned out to be a really nice, cool highlight. One of my best, I think. Plus the stories there, which is cool. Yeah. I remember my legs were killing me as I was kneeling on the side.
You mean?
But other than that, it was okay.
Yeah.
Yes. I remember my legs killing me as I was kind of squatting. And I remember that too, thinking, I wasn't sure if it was sweat or blood, but I was like, if it's blood, I hope Will gets the shot. And you did.
I don't miss it, mate. I had a similar situation too. I was given a fight at last minute by my coach, had the fight, and then afterwards I ran backstage, got my camera, came back out. And like you said, there wasn't any pressure of me doing the whole show. I was just having fun. And it's a difference when you're doing it for fun, you're doing it as a hobby. There's not much pressure on you, but as you get more and more work, there's a level of expectation on you. People expect you to do the same quality for every show, and sometimes it's not there. But then as a creative, you have to make it happen or make something work to produce the same amount of output as what people are used to. Do you feel that way too?
Yeah, every show, you got to find those moments. Sometimes it's harder than others. Sometimes there's an insane show with all the big names and everything, and it's obviously going to be easier
Yep.
to make something from that than, you know, a smaller show like say the Rooch shows. Like they're up and coming guys, and so they're not full of the name. So I got to find the special stuff rather than just make something. Got to try, you know, squeeze the creativity out of it.
Yeah, I tell people I still have the same amount of fun working on those grassroots shows as I do on those pro shows, because I still feel connected to those fighters having their first fights, because I know their nerves, I know what's going through their mind, so I know what to capture through, and I still had the same amount of fun from the first fight all the way to the last fight.
I'm the same. You see guys going through the motions that you've gone through before. You can relate. You can find those moments that maybe some other people might miss.
And obviously, you know, we're both part of the martial arts scene. We've both been in a ring before. A little bit easier for us to get access and for us to get accepted as if you're coming in as an outsider.
And you kind of gain that trust from the people over time. So now people know that I'm not going to make them look stupid, I guess.
Yeah.
Whereas before, they'd be like, who's this guy? I found though, as it's gone on and I've built relationships with everyone, it's actually not as fun. I don't know, that sounds negative, but I mean, so naive Tom, like a couple of years into it, I would be like happy when there was like a knockout or something, because I'm all excited, not happy, but excited, like, oh yeah, I just got this awesome knockout kind of thing.
Yeah.
But now, because I know everyone, it's horrible. And and I got to keep filming it, and that's my friend. Like I dealt with that when I was just teammates kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now it's like, yeah.
I've had
that
same feeling too, and I think it just comes with our work. Really, you learn how to not be biased along the way, and you think, oh, I'm going to make someone look bad, but it's a professional sport. You know, people will fight friends, and you're fighting people that you know, you understand that you're not there to make them look bad. You're just doing work.
Yeah, well, one of my recent, well, it was probably 6 months ago now, but I made a video called Medicine.
Yep.
Where I gathered all the horrible, real stuff that goes on. So not just all the celebrating, not all the, the winning and the, the training and all the great stuff, but all the other stuff to show that real side with respect, So I felt awkward and like kind of a bit, I hope people don't think they're not angry with me for using some of this footage of them, like, in their most vulnerable positions. But I think most fighters, from what I've been told, appreciated showing the reality.
Out of curiosity, have you copped any backlash from people from the content that you've used?
No backlash. I've been asked not to use certain stuff because people didn't want that out there. Everyone's great to me. Not everything I make is amazing, but I get a lot of support from everyone.
Let's get the scene here. It's 12 a.m. You're at the main event. You've probably been holding the camera all day. What's going through your mind? How are you feeling?
Who is in that shot?
Toby Smith.
It's Toby. Yep. So that's the main event. Probably either
1 a.m.
Rebellion 20. I think that's the second fight. Yeah, I usually have a big, second. Well, it's probably fifth wind by now. But
Yep.
Before the main event, I usually get pretty amped. So, and especially for a Toby Smith fight, I always love filming Toby. So this particular fight, I was, that's the entrance. Yeah, no, that's him getting introduced. Actually love that shot. So that's the beginning. So I'm excited. Yeah, this fight was the rematch, and yeah, we're all waiting to see how it would go the second time, because Jakub had a full training camp this time rather than the first time. Yeah, yep. I was excited.
We don't really clash when it comes to working next to each other. I give you a space when you need a certain shot, and you give me my space when I need shots for the opening and also the fights. I think by this time I would have been very tired, but I tell people I need the same amount of focus from the first fight as I do the last fight, because your mind can't wander. If your mind starts drifting off, you will miss shots here and there. You got to have that same amount of focus to capture the main event with the same amount of energy as the start of the night. And like you said, we've seen how the first fight went, and you could sort of predict what was going to happen now with the difference in heights. And obviously, if it's a Toby Smith fight, the chances of blood being splattered, it's pretty high. So I had to get my wet wipe close by for this one.
Yeah, well, after the first one, which had like a lot of blood, and I always love it. I don't know, it must be a sick, twisted thing for most people to hear, but whenever there's blood, I'm always run to that corner in the middle.
I think we're the same way. Like, we have a set routine. As soon as someone gets cut, we're waiting as soon as the round ends, as they're walking back to the corner. You have only a few seconds to get those shots before the doctor or the corner wipes it off.
Yeah, you got to be quick, because they wipe it off real quick. But that the first fight, one of my favorite shots in the corner of Toby, you got Blair and they're just screaming instructions at him, and there's blood just pouring down his face. Awesome. And they're like feeding him water, and
there's a few moments like that in the corner when water mixed with blood, you get that nice splatter too.
One of my favorite water shots is Jump and Ton. They Victoria, they're both giving her water. So there's like 2 bottles, and it's so funny.
I've got to see that one.
Yeah, I use it. It's a funny shot.
Quick note I tell people when they're starting out: if you want a nice shot of water being splashed around, pay attention to the second or third round, the start of those rounds, when the corners splash water all over their head. The first few punches that connect, you're going to get a burst of water.
Yeah, no, I because I've got 2 modes that I shoot in, and one mode that is the super slow mode, and then the other mode, because when I shoot in super slow motion, I can't get audio at that high frame rate.
Yeah.
And so, but I still want to get like audio. So I switch between the 2. And by the 5th round, so I start off with the slow motion, because the first round, we get to know the people, but especially if I don't know the fighters, I always shoot the first round super slow because they might come out like crazy. They might not though. So feed, how, you work out your opponent kind of thing too. But then if people are working their opponent out, it's also quite a clean shot. But yeah, that second and third round for the water at the start of the round, I always try to get that in super slow-mo, because water, blood looks awesome.
It's a good mix. Back to what you said about you learning the fighters in the first round. Oftentimes, if it's an international fighter who I haven't seen before, I like to watch a few fights of theirs just to get an idea of how they'll fight, and then I'll try and visualize how the fight's going to play out in my head, and I'll use that as a point of reference. Do you have any ways of doing your research on fighters before you start filming them?
Well, especially in Rebellion's case, I make the promo. I have to go through a number of fights to cut up to find the good. That's when I'm learning the fighters, if I don't know them already. Yes. When I'm making the promotional material, I get to go through all the fights, with a fine-tuned comb, and that's how I learn what kind of fighter they are usually.
And after a dozen of fights, you have some signs, like if a certain fighter is going to do the full waiku, if a fighter is going to start stomping on the other corner, then you might get footage of that. If between rounds that fighter is going to be leading on the back of the ropes to get that nice stretch. Those little moments help you frame your shots better in a way.
Yeah, of course. And working for Rebellion so consistently now, and because SI uses the same guys, not every day, I know them like the back of my hand, like I can see what's coming.
And there's little tell signs too, just the footwork or the way they do the feints.
Yep, that's right. Yeah.
Out of curiosity, are there any tips that you would give someone starting out in videography when it comes to martial arts?
So you and I both have it in common where we have some of us martial arts experience. I think that really helps. So if you train, just start filming. My advice would just start filming your teammates. That would be my best advice. You don't need to start with a good camera. No. So I started with a low range. So you got professional gear, and then you've got the lower range of that. you can learn on something that's, you don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars. It's learn the basics first on something and then upgrade.
I completely agree, man. I learned my mistakes at the gym, being backstage in a corner. At the start, I borrowed my dad's camera. I borrowed his basic lens. I didn't know the first thing about my settings. I just shot and then began making adjustments along the way. Even when I got hired to do the first few shows, I was learning on a job. And I tell people, camera gear is the last thing I would be worrying about starting out. Just learn your craft, learn what's going on. A lot of people that come to me asking for advice, and straight away they'll ask me, what gear do you use? What's your settings? To me, that's almost like saying to a pro fighter like Ramesh Habib, hey, you're such a great fighter. What gloves do you use? Or tell me about the bags, tell me about the pads that you use. I feel like the questions you should be asking is talking about their training regime, talking about how they started, getting some really deep questions instead of just thinking that the result of your work is just based on your gear. I mean, gear comes afterwards, but even if you and I had basic kit gear, we'll still be able to achieve something similar to what we have now.
Yep. The one where you took the photo of the blood. So I had my lower end camera then, and like I was saying, that was one of my best pieces, I think, Road Rebellion 5. Still, so it's not just to do with the camera. Just got to, like anything,
know your sport.
Practice makes perfect. Yep, that's right. Just shoot if that's what you want to do.
Now, we both know shooting isn't everything. There's something called editing and post-production. And what's your process like editing your footage after a fight? In this case, this was the back room of the Rebellion show, and I think what you were doing a quick highlight after the show. Is that right?
So it's weird seeing myself with shaved head. So I think I was data dumping when you took this photo. I don't have, like, you're amazing how you get your photos up so quickly for everyone, but for me, I can't get stuff up that quick. It's a 40-hour process for me to get a highlight together. And it's, for me to explain it to everyone, my process is probably not perfect. I need to talk to someone and find a better way, because my way
everyone's got their own way of doing things. I don't get you. I get you, but I didn't get you either.
Yeah. So in this photo, I am data dumping, but I also think that I was just checking. But this was after the show. Do you remember? Was this?
I don't remember. I've got to check the timestamp on this one.
But during the show, I fill up cards like you wouldn't believe, and so in between fights, I run to the back, chuck a card in. It's called a data dump or whatever. So while it's copying onto my computer, I run back and continue filming, because I always have obviously more than one card. And so I try time that. If I mistime it, or if there's a mistake, if there's a mistake, it's devastating. I lose footage, which is very rare, but it has happened, where I thought something copied while I was away, come back, grab the card, reformatted it.
Yep. And there's been a few times when you've come running back to the ring and saying to me, oh, Will, I think I've just lost all this data.
Yeah. I remember that the last time that I told you that, and I went home and I actually didn't lose it, thank goodness. But you was that Roots, the last Roots?
Probably.
Because I remember you were like comforting, like, it's all right, you did it. You're still getting the main event, because I think it was before the main event and everything. And obviously, everyone's fight's important, but obviously the main event is the most important.
I think what I said to you was, even if you had lost it, there's no point stressing over that, because what's done is done. You can't bring it back. Just focus on what's ahead.
That was horrible feeling though. And then I'm filming fights with this horrible feeling, because I thought that I'd just lost, 3 fights, because I'd formatted a card that I shouldn't have. Turned out that I hadn't. So I didn't miss anyone's fights, but so I'm running back and forth. If you ever see me at the show, you'll see me running around trying to time it, because I still want to get backstage footage as well. So,
and it's hard being a one-man show, because you want to get the best of both worlds. And I tell everybody, I have as much fun backstage, sometimes even more fun backstage than I do at the actual fights itself.
That's right. I try, because like you said, getting to know the fighters, so anything can happen in a fight. But if you get to know a fighter and they're not knockout artists, you get the first 2 rounds, you think, okay, I've at least got some footage of their fight. This is a 5-rounder. They're not knockout artists. I'm going to run to the back for 1 round, get some backstage footage. I might miss front. I'll get back. I'll always try to get the hand raise of who wins. So I try to time it like that. Every now and again, a couple of times, I'm out the back filming, and then I hear the crowd, whoa, and I'm like,
shit,
no, I've just missed the knockout. I run out. But yeah, I try my best to time it. And you're right, like we were talking about before, getting to know the fighters is a big part of that.
It is hard being a one-man show because you're expected to get both worlds, but it's almost impossible. And when I come to venues, I map out the whole venue. I map out the ring. I map out my entrances. I map out how much space I have. If I can sprint, I'm going to navigate through it. I see how long it's going to take me to get from the ring to the backstage. If it's going to be a 5 by 3 minute round, I know I'm going to have a 2-minute break. That's going to give me enough time to run to the back, do my thing, review my shots, come back to the ring, and just have time to breathe, get some water, get some food. It's all about timing to get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, like Roots and Rebellion for me, and what I do for those shows is a little bit different. Where Roots, I just make one video that I cut everything together, so there's not as much stress to that as where the Rebellion, I try to capture each fight rather than just the show. And so with Roots, if I miss something, it's not that big a deal because it's just one big thing. It obviously sucks if I miss something that was awesome, but with Rebellion, I'm trying to capture the whole fight, yet I'm still trying to get backstage and get stuff. Very, very difficult.
It's also cool how we work well together. When I see something cool happening backstage, I'll say, hey, Tom, you should go backstage. So-and-so is doing pads now, and then you'll start running back, and then you'll do the same to me.
Yep. Yeah, no, a number of like Pinky spit the water a couple of times, don't miss this. I'm like, oh yeah. So
it's tell signs you get from being around the sport long enough. You know what people will do.
No, that's right. And I think we are a good team. I know that a couple of times, I was out thinking, I've swept in front of you, probably wrecked a couple too many shots, but you've always been real good and understanding. And at the start, like learning too, because as a cameraman, you get swept up in it, and sometimes, you're either standing in front of like someone that you shouldn't be, like obviously the people that paid for the front row, also like the production team. So that was handy because I did so much work with them that I understand their system now, whereas I know, what shot they're on, so I can get this other shot. Things like that come into play with what I do too, because I obviously don't want to get in the broadcast shot. Sometimes I can't help it, but yeah, I try my best.
Now, on the topic of being in a backstage room, what's it like for you backstage as a fighter, getting your hands strapped up before heading out to the ring?
Well, it's pretty nerve-wracking. The day's more nerve-wracking. Like by now, I'm starting to just get in the right mindset, I guess, and the fear is slowly disappearing because there's no way out, So I guess a week out, there's a lot of nerves because it's like, if I wanted to, I could run away, I guess, But at this point, there's nothing I can do. My hands are getting wrapped, and it's a process too. And you're right at the end. Before you know it, you're going to be in there. So it's nerve-wracking, exciting, obviously, because it's fun.
This particular moment, you were wearing a black shirt, and this was right after you became the full-time content creator for Rebellion Muay Thai. So it was a chance for you to actually do what you love and do what you're good at full-time. What was that moment like for you?
It was awesome. I tried to dress a bit nicer for that show.
Everyone's looking at you thinking, why is he wearing a shirt?
Well, that was Rebellion 19, and they had Sitmon Try crew over. I was excited about that. Excited about, obviously, working full-time with Sai. Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to look a bit better, but it didn't really work. I looked more stupid than anything. But yeah, it was a really exciting time, that particular show and time. Yeah.
And this brings us to our last photo. What's with all the spinning back jump kicks? You haven't paid for this photo yet, so that's why the watermark's still there.
I was going to pay for that photo and you can't find the original. Do you remember me emailing you about that?
Probably, and that's why I just ghosted you. I stopped replying to you after that.
Yes, I was one of those annoying people that messaged you once upon a time.
Tell me about your fighting style.
Well, I'm not very pretty to watch, and I did Taekwondo when I was younger, so that like obviously that's blended into my style. I'm not very Muay Thai style fighter. I try, but yeah, every fight I try to throw one spinning back kick. I told my auntie Sue I always throw one spinning back kick for her. So
it's like you're taking a page out of Wayne Parr's book.
Yeah, well, I was going to say I'll land one day, but I probably will never get in there again. But yeah, I like this shot. It looks pretty cool.
Actually, I got one more for you. What was going on here?
I was nervous.
I can't tell.
Yeah. And I'm chunky there too. Yeah, that's pure nerves.
Now, if you look carefully down there, you see some photographers at the red corner, and this particular show, there was people shooting from all over the place. And like I said, you have to know where you're shooting from. Either go to a neutral corner where no one's going to be there, or go to the center. You don't want to be caught up in the action in the red corner or blue corner, because you got to give them their space, because the last thing you want is have someone there taking photos and getting in your way. Yeah. Well, that's it for tonight, Tom. Thank you for your time, and thanks for coming on to the show.
You're more than welcome, Will. Thanks for having me, man.